This movie begins with Michael Oher, also known as Big Mike, who at the age of 17 is speaking with an NCAA investigator. Michael appears overwhelmed by the many questions being asked. From there, we are taken into a flashback of Michael's life. Michael is raised in various families in Memphis, Tennessee, because his biological mother is a drug addict. Michael does not have a permanent place to stay. He is often adopted by other families, but frequently runs away to return to his mother, as if there is a deeper reason behind his actions. At that time, Michael is adopted by a black family named the Hamiltons. There, he has a foster brother of the same age named Stephen Hamilton. One day, Michael, along with his foster father, Tony, and Stephen, goes to a school in the city. Tony meets with Mr. Bert Cotton, a coach at Wingate Christian School, to enroll Stephen and Michael in the school. Initially, Mr. Cotton refuses for various reasons. However, when he sees Michael playing basketball with exceptional skill, he changes his mind. Mr. Cotton tries to convince the school board to accept Michael. Unfortunately, Michael's poor academic performance leads the board to decide against it. But thanks to Mr. Cotton's persistence, as he wants Michael on the football team, Michael is eventually accepted. On his first day of school, Michael appears quiet. During an exam, he fails to answer a single question. Meanwhile, Tony's wife often complains about Michael's presence in their home. Hearing this, Michael feels that he is the source of the household's troubles. The scene then shifts to the Tuohy family watching their daughter, Collins, play volleyball at the same school Michael attends. After the game, Sean Tuohy sees Michael picking up leftover food from the bleachers, but doesn't pay much attention. One day after school, Michael goes to a playground. When he greets children playing on the swings, they run away in fear. Michael is disheartened until a boy named Sean Jr., or SJ, approaches him and introduces himself. SJ is Collins' younger brother and the son of Leigh, an interior designer, and Sean Tuohy, a wealthy businessman. On the same day, Michael receives news that his biological father has died by suicide on a bridge. However, Michael, who has never even seen his father's face, simply remains silent upon hearing the news. After spending a long time in thought, Michael goes to a laundry shop to rest. He convinces himself not to return to the Hamilton family's home. Meanwhile, the teachers at Michael's school collaborate to help improve his academic performance. While the Tuohy family is driving home from a Thanksgiving event at the school, they see Michael walking in thin clothing in the cold weather toward the school building. Leigh Ann decides to approach him. She eventually learns that Michael doesn't have a place to sleep. Leigh Ann invites Michael to come home with her family. The next morning, Michael wakes up early and leaves the house neatly dressed. Leigh Ann, who hasn't had the chance to meet Michael, chases after him and invites him to celebrate Thanksgiving together. At the Tuohy family's house, Michael feels out of place and isolates himself in the dining room. Leigh Ann, noticing this, turns off the TV and gathers the entire family to eat together in the dining room. When Collins reaches out to hold hands for prayer, Michael feels like he truly belongs to a family. However, Michael remains confused by Leigh Ann's genuine kindness. Later, Leigh Ann takes Michael to meet his biological mother. In the car, Leigh Ann tries to learn more about Michael's life. But since Michael stays silent, Leigh Ann encourages him to share anything he wants. At that moment, Michael reveals that he doesn't like being called Big Mike. They then go to Michael's old house. Upon arriving, Michael forbids Leigh Ann from stepping out of the car, worried that she might be harassed by the troublemakers in the area. When Michael reaches the door, he sees an eviction notice posted on it. After a moment of reflection, he returns to the car and tells Leigh Ann that his parents have moved away, possibly for good. Leigh Ann then takes Mike to buy clothes at a store not far from that place. There, Leigh Ann offers several expensive outfits, but Michael refuses and chooses only simple clothes. The next day, Leigh Ann drives Collins, Michael, and SJ to school. Afterward, as usual, she goes to have lunch with her friends. That evening at home, Leigh Ann gives Michael a blanket and pillow, helping him tidy up the sofa where he sleeps. The following morning, Leigh Ann meets with the school staff, and they share some information they have about Michael. Upon returning home, Leigh Ann immediately prepares a room for Michael, complete with a mattress typically used by athletes. Seeing this, Michael feels overjoyed because, for the first time in his life, he has a room of his own. From that moment on, Michael attends extra classes every day at school. Gradually, his grades, which used to be D's, start improving to C's. The once reserved Michael begins to change. He talks more and grows closer to his new family. This is evident during their trip to a restaurant together. At the bookstore, Collins and SJ find storybooks their mother used to read to them. Leigh then asks Mike about books his mother has ever read to him. Mike replies that his mother never reads stories to him. At the restaurant, unexpectedly, Michael meets his sibling, Marcus. Seeing Michael hugging Marcus sparks curiosity in Leigh and Sean. On the way home, Michael finally explains that Marcus is his brother. At home, Leigh reads a bedtime story to Michael and SJ, while Collins secretly listens from behind the door. Christmas arrives, and the Tuohy family takes a family photo for their Christmas cards. When Leigh sees Michael sitting apart from the group, she invites him to join the photo. For the first time, Michael has a family picture. When the Christmas cards are distributed, people around Leigh, from her cousin Bobby to her friends, express surprise. They are even more shocked when Leigh shares her intention to adopt Michael. Some of them worry that Michael's presence might endanger Collins. However, with her kind heart, Leigh ignores the negative comments about Michael. One day, Michael goes to the library. Michael chooses to sit alone, but Collins, who is there, feels sorry for him. She approaches Michael and sits beside him. Michael smiles. Football practice begins. However, Michael looks awkward because he doesn't know what to do. With his large and tall build, he even tackles his opponents effortlessly. At one point, he carries an opponent while trying to reach the ball. SJ tries to help Michael get excited about practicing and becoming a great football player. Mike then asks Leigh to help him get a driver's license so he can have an identification card to carry. Leigh takes Mike to apply for a license, but the officer cannot process it due to Mike's incomplete records. That day, Leigh talks to Sean about her desire to legally adopt Michael. Sean is initially hesitant because they've only known him for a short time. After a long discussion, Sean finally agrees with his wife's wish. The day comes when Leigh visits the Civil Records Office. She is shocked to learn that Michael's family background is extremely troubled. Michael is a ward of the state. His mother is a drug addict, and several of his siblings' identities are unknown. Leigh eventually visits Michael's mother, Denise. She feels deep sympathy for Denise's condition. Denise reveals that Michael does not have a father and does not even have a birth certificate. Since being placed in state care, Michael has moved from one family to another because he always ran away to look for his mother. One morning, the Tuohy family gathers and talks to Michael about their intention to adopt him. Without hesitation, Michael immediately agrees. Mike finally gets his driving license, and to celebrate, Sean gives him a car as a gift. One day, Michael wants to buy a new video game with SJ. On the way, they sing together while driving the car Sean recently bought. However, Michael loses control and crashes into another vehicle. A shocked Leigh rushes to see them. She comforts both of her sons and assures Michael that the accident was not his fault. It's time for Michael to train with his football team. During practice, Michael struggles, and his coach, Mr. Cotton, has difficulty guiding him. Seeing this, Leigh steps onto the field and motivates Michael. She tells him, "When you see your opponent, think of protecting your family." Michael finally starts to understand his role. When his first game begins, even though it's just a local match, the Tuohy family is there to support him. During the first half, Michael's team concedes several points as the opposing team repeatedly attacks their quarterback. One of the opposing players even mocks Michael. However, Michael manages to control his anger. With encouragement from his coach, Michael regains focus and finds his rhythm. He even pushes one of the opposing players off the field, leading his team to a resounding victory. That night, SJ shares the game footage with several prestigious universities. As a result, many college football teams become interested in Michael's talent and defensive skills. One day, while Michael is practicing, several college coaches come to watch him in person. Seeing Michael's performance, the coaches grow even more eager to recruit him. At home, Leigh begins thinking of ways to ensure Michael's academic grades, especially his GPA, meet college requirements. Sean doubts whether Michael can get an offer to play professionally. However, Leigh plays several voicemails from top universities eagerly awaiting Michael's arrival. To help Michael, the Tuohy family hires a private tutor so he can study at home. Meanwhile, Michael's high school football career continues to shine, and he even leads his team to win the inter-school championship. As Michael's popularity grows, several universities visit the Tuohy home with attractive offers. They keep persuading Mike to join their team. At the same time, Michael's academic performance steadily improves. One evening, Michael's private tutor, who happens to be from Ole Miss, advises him not to hesitate when choosing a university. The next day, Mike decides to join the University of Ole Miss, where Sean once played basketball and Leigh was a cheerleader. However, at school, Mike faces one subject where his grade still doesn't meet the requirement. Leigh speaks directly to the teacher of the subject, and Mike is asked to write a paper to improve his grade. With the help of a tutor and Sean, Mike manages to write a great essay, improve his grades, and achieve a GPA sufficient to continue to the University of Ole Miss. Upon his graduation, Mike fulfills his dream of playing football at the university, meeting one of the key requirements with a GPA of 2.5. At first, everything goes smoothly until suddenly an investigator named Granger from the NCAA calls Mike for an interview. The NCAA is an organization that enforces athletic rules at universities in the country. They suspect that the Tuohy family intentionally adopted Mike and provided all the facilities to help the University of Ole Miss maintain its popularity, especially since the Tuohy family is a regular donor at the university. When Granger asks Mike about the reason behind his decision to choose Ole Miss, Mike feels uncomfortable and decides to leave the room. Outside, Mike meets Leigh. However, he is affected by Granger's questions about the Tuohy family's motives for enrolling him at Ole Miss. Feeling confused and uncertain, Mike leaves. By nightfall, Mike has not yet returned home. It turns out Mike has gone to Hurt Village to search for his biological mother. Mike meets his mother's neighbor, Alton, who tells him that his mother isn't home. Alton offers him a beer while waiting for his mother to return. Unexpectedly, Alton starts making suggestive remarks about Leigh and Collins, Mike's adoptive sister. Michael, angered by Alton's comments, ends up arguing with him, which leads to a fight. The next day, Mike contacts Leigh. They have an honest conversation, and Leigh allows Mike to make his own choice. After the discussion, Mike feels calmer and more confident about his decision. Mike then returns to the NCAA and gives a firm statement that he chose the University of Ole Miss not out of pressure, but because his whole family had attended there. His brief yet convincing response finally resolves the issue. The time comes for Mike to start his life at his new college. There, Sean gives Mike advice and prepares everything he will need for college. Meanwhile, Leigh feels heartbroken about having to part with Mike. After making sure everything is ready, Leigh hurries to her car, unable to show her sadness. But before Leigh leaves, Mike approaches her and gives a warm hug to his loving adoptive mother. The hug becomes a symbol of Mike's gratitude and love for Leigh. The movie ends.